Chapter 10, Part B. I've got news for you. You could stop smoking, deteriorate into a wet-mouthed, shame-faced, pizza-eating slob like I once did, and still be healthier than you are now. Which do you think your body is more capable of dealing with? A few extra pounds under your belt, or a combination of nicotine, carbon monoxide, polonium-210, lead, nickel, and benzene in your lungs 20 times each day? If you've ever used this excuse, think about it for a second. Are you really suggesting that you're prepared to spend the rest of your life breathing radioactive smoke simply in order to avoid putting on weight? So, am I saying that you'll put on weight if you stop smoking? No, I'm not saying any such thing. I'm simply exposing the hollowness of the cover story. Don't forget that, by definition, a cover story isn't true. A cover story is designed not to illuminate a truth, but to perpetuate an illusion. Here's the point. If you force yourself to stop smoking without removing your phobia, you'll feel nervous, vulnerable, and insecure. If you feel nervous, vulnerable, and insecure, you'll look for some way to comfort yourself. If you look for some way to comfort yourself, it might be food. It might be chocolate. It might be steak and kidney pudding, chips, peas, and gravy. It might be cheeseburgers. It might be raspberry milkshakes. It might be your own nails. But you're not going to force yourself to stop smoking. You're going to do the exact opposite. You're going to escape from the phobia, which means that each time you even think of cigarettes, you'll immediately feel the exact opposite of insecure. You won't have created an empty space. You'll have permanently filled one. Just the knowledge that you no longer feel tense from cigarettes will, by itself, be intensely pleasurable, satisfying, reassuring, and comforting. And unlike food or cigarettes, you'll be able to give yourself this secret pleasure whenever you want to, without calories, without consequences, without financial expense, just by thinking about cigarettes. Let's look at the final cover story. Cover story 4. Smoking is just a habit. The final cover story is different from the other 3 cover stories because the other cover stories pretend to be reasons to smoke. In effect, "it's just a habit" is essentially the claim that the smoker is smoking for no reason at all. Unfortunately, rather than making it easier to dismiss this cover story, this lack of logic actually makes it more difficult, not because it makes any sense, it doesn't, as I will prove in a second, but because of the smoker's state of mind when he or she says it. To understand why, you need to realize that when a smoker says that smoking is a habit, it's usually after he or she has exhausted all the other cover stories and has come to the conclusion that there's just no point even worrying about smoking anymore. It's a form of denial. It means I don't know and I don't want to know. But let's dig a bit deeper. Interestingly, the dictionary definition of a habit is simply an activity that is continually repeated. Technically, therefore, smoking is a habit in the dictionary sense. However, the suggestion is that the smoker can stop smoking whenever they want. Technically, this is also true. Then again, technically, someone who has a phobia of heights can climb up a 200-foot crane, balance to the end of it, and then abseil down to the ground using their shoelaces. Technically. Let me describe another habit, then we'll compare it with smoking and see what happens. While you're in a job, you get up, get dressed, and go to work as a matter of habit. You go to the same place each day as a matter of habit. You speak to the same people each day as a matter of habit. You park your car or catch a particular train as a matter of habit. You have each weekend off as a matter of habit. You get lunch somewhere regularly as a matter of habit. But if you were made redundant or moved to a different job, would you keep turning up at your old job out of habit? Would you keep getting the train to where you used to? Would you keep giving people your old business card out of habit? Of course not. Even though these are all deeply ingrained habits, they only exist while there's a reason for them to exist. Without this reason, it's easy to let go of literally hundreds of habits that are all connected to something you don't need to do anymore. In fact, it's so easy that it doesn't even occur to you that you've done it. With smoking, not only do you need to buy cigarettes, get an ashtray, find somewhere to smoke, possibly get permission, and so on, but on top of all this, you then need to go directly against all your natural survival instincts, simply in order to smoke. But there's something else that exposes this cover story as false. Let's say that you walk to the newsagents each day using a particular route as a matter of habit. One morning, you discover that a mains pipe has flooded the road and you can't follow that particular route anymore. Do you immediately panic? Do you start sweating? Do you beg a friend to give you a piggyback through the water? Do you react with blind panic like you do when you can't smoke? No. Smoking is not a habit. You smoke because your subconscious mind wants you to, and it wants you to because it confuses the delayed sensation of nicotine with fear, and vice versa. You smoke because you have a phobia, period. Many smokers who are thinking of quitting tend to fixate on all the things they think they believe, the cover stories, and they assume they'll need to somehow find a way of defeating all of them separately before stopping. They think they'll want to smoke when they drink. They believe they'll want to smoke when they go to a wedding or a funeral. They believe their lives will never be the same without cigarettes. When a smoker believes this, is it any wonder that quitting smoking seems like an overwhelming task? I've seen grown men and women reduced to tears as they've talked about the struggle they've had with cigarettes. But the reason they failed was because they were never struggling with cigarettes or even struggling against withdrawal symptoms. Without knowing it, they were actually struggling against their own subconscious mind. That's why they never stood a chance. You can't override your own subconscious mind. It's not designed to be overridden by you or anyone else. But I repeat, you're not going to try to. You're not going to force yourself to stop smoking this time. You're simply going to make your subconscious mind see the truth about smoking and let it make the decision for you. That's why it won't fail, because believe it or not, your subconscious mind has never failed. Even when it's been telling you to smoke, it's been doing the right thing, but based on false information. By the time it lets go of smoking, it will still be doing the right thing, but based on correct information. In fact, I'm not going to tell you to smoke a last cigarette or even suggest that you set a date for stopping smoking. It doesn't work like that, as I've been explaining all the way through this book. I'm simply going to help you to naturally lose the fear response that drives your smoking. It's going to happen automatically, so just enjoy it. Think of it as a jigsaw with just a few pieces missing. They're the most enjoyable bit of the whole experience. Even if you throw this book away right now, a cigarette will never feel the same for you again. Even as you read this sentence, your subconscious mind is finally starting to wise up to the nicotine trick. If you don't believe me, feel free to test it with a cigarette whenever you want. You'll find that it feels different, somehow even more disappointing than before. You'll also be more aware than before that there is absolutely no pleasure whatsoever to be had from smoking a cigarette. None at all. You'll also realize that the underlying feeling of tension isn't completely removed, even if you inhale more deeply than you ever have before. In fact, if you concentrate really hard, you'll notice that you can feel that unnatural sense of chemical tension even now as you read this sentence. Enjoy it while it lasts. If you keep smoking, you'll be forced to keep one or more of these cover stories going for the rest of your life. You haven't got time for that. You've got a life to live. Very shortly, I'm going to show you specifically how your subconscious mind is going to start seeing smoking as an anticlimax. But first, there's one final issue you need to be straight on.